Tavia Rook had survived cursed contracts, debt collectors, and one unpaid invoice from a man who thought growling counted as negotiation. She had never been defeated by a bar stool before. The stool wobbled under her boot, her sixth glass of Ember Lime tequila wobbled in her hand, and the enormous man blocking the payment screen did not wobble at all. That was rude of him. "Sit down, mister," Tavia told the wall of black wool, expensive leather, and impossible shoulders in front of her. She poked one finger into the center of his chest because drunk logic insisted that tall problems could be solved by pressing buttons. "You make a better door than a window." The rusted moon went silent so fast the neon sign seemed to buzz out of embarrassment. Not polite silence. Not curious silence. The kind of silence that made every rogue in a neutral zone bar suddenly remember an urgent appointment somewhere else. Behind the counter, Venik the bartender lowered one hand beneath the polished wood. He did not reach for a weapon. The rusted moon had rules about weapons. He reached for the emergency ledger, the one where he recorded last words, unpaid drinks, and whatever explanation might help his insurance claim. Tavia squinted up. The man looked carved from midnight and royal inconvenience. Black hair, broad shoulders, a severe mouth, eyes of cold gold under lashes that had no business belonging to anyone this dangerous. His suit swallowed the bar light, and his stillness made every other body in the room look badly assembled. Her buzz did not leave all at once. It put on a coat, apologized for the mess, and climbed out the back window. Because the man she had just poked like a broken vending machine was Kael Voranth, Alpha King of the Iron Veil. He ruled the northern packs, kept old moon law, and made ambitious men discover a sudden love of retirement. Tavia Rook, rogue fixer, black market problem solver, professional survivor, and woman with no pack to mourn her bad decisions, had ordered the Alpha King to sit down. Kael looked at the finger still pressed to his chest. Then he looked at her. His voice came low enough to stir the liquor in her glass. "You touched me." Tavia's common sense woke up just long enough to scream, apologize. Unfortunately, her pride was driving. "I also paid for this drink," she told him, lifting the glass a little. Only one of those decisions was questionable. Several people inhaled at once. Someone near the back whispered a quick prayer to a moon goddess who was probably busy pretending not to know anyone in this room. Kael's gold eyes narrowed. Then Tavia heard a second voice. It did not come from his mouth. It slid through the place where her finger touched his chest, warm and startled and far too enthusiastic. "Mate." Tavia blinked. The voice inside Kael snarled again, with the stunned joy of a creature that had found treasure in a gutter. "Mate, she touched us. Do not frighten her. Smile. No, not that face. That face looks like tax enforcement." Tavia stared at the Alpha King. Kael stared back, all frost and royal murder. His wolf, apparently, had the emotional discipline of a festival banner in a storm. "You should move," Tavia managed carefully, because the floor had started to tilt, and she was not ready to discuss invisible voices with anyone who owned that many guards. Kael did not move. His wolf groaned in her skull. "We are standing too close. Excellent. She smells like lime, smoke, steel, and bad ideas. We enjoy bad ideas." Tavia snatched her finger away. The voice vanished. That should have comforted her. It did not. Kael inhaled once, slow and controlled, the way powerful men did when they wanted the room to understand they had not yet chosen violence. The gold in his eyes flared brighter. He knew. Maybe not that she had heard his wolf, but he had felt something move between them. Something sharp and old. Something that made the air taste like heated copper and storm rain. Tavia stepped down from the stool with all the dignity available to a woman whose left knee briefly forgot its employment terms. "Neutral zone," she reminded him, pointing toward the brass plaque nailed beside the bar. "No pack arrests, no royal commands, no dramatic growling before midnight unless Venik charges extra." Venik made a strangled sound behind the counter. Kael's mouth almost moved. Not a smile, not even close. But the left corner considered treason. His wolf lunged back into hearing range when Kael took one step nearer. "She is brave." or concussed. Ask if she is concussed. Also, she has excellent hands. Tavia lifted her glass toward him. Your face is doing something weird. Kale lowered his gaze to the drink. How many of those have you had? The question was calm. The wolf was not. Do not scold her. Offer water. No, offer food. No, offer our entire territory. Too soon? Tavia decided the only sensible response was to finish the drink. She tipped back the last mouthful and winced as the tequila burned down her throat with all the grace of a falling chandelier. Enough, she decided, to make this conversation your fault. Kale looked past her. His attention flicked to the mirror behind the bar, to the door, to the two men in gray coats who had been pretending not to watch her since she arrived. Tavia had noticed them too. She noticed everything when she drank. She simply cared less. One of the gray-coated men touched the cuff of his sleeve. Kale's posture changed. It was small. A slight shift of weight. A tightening at the jaw. The change did not scare most of the room because most of the room had already been scared. Tavia felt it through the floor. Danger. Not from him. From outside. Kale's wolf dropped its ridiculous tone. 3 watchers. One at the rear door, one near the alley, one with a moon-silver charm hidden under his cuff. They came for her. Tavia looked up sharply. Kale's eyes locked on hers. He had not spoken. She had not spoken. Yet for 1 second, both of them knew the same thing. Her celebration was over. The bounty had found her. Tavia had expected it eventually. She had stolen a sealed transaction archive from the black market syndicate called the Glass Hand 3 weeks ago. They bribed officials, laundered PAC money, and sold forbidden charms to anyone rich enough to ignore consequences. She had planned to sell the archive to a judiciary clerk once she copied the useful parts. Then, someone had placed a price on her head large enough to make every desperate rogue in the city curious. She had come to the Rusted Moon because neutral bars were supposed to be safe. Apparently, safe had gone out for air. Kale set one hand around her wrist. The touch was firm, hot, and careful. His wolf shouted directly through her bones. Finally. Carry her. No, ask first. No, she will say no. Carry her respectfully. Tavia jerked against his grip. If this is the royal version of flirting, your kingdom is in trouble. Kale leaned down until she could hear him over the neon buzz. He warned her that 3 glass hand collectors were inside the bar and 2 more waited outside. If she left by any door except his, they would take her before dawn. That was useful information. Tavia hated useful information delivered by men who looked right. I know how to handle collectors, she murmured. His eyes cut to the payment screen, then to her empty glass, then to the knife hidden in the back of her boot. Tonight you are drunk, overconfident, and wearing boots with decorative buckles instead of proper ankle support. The wolf added, We respect the buckles. They are shiny. Terrible for running. Tavia gasped. You leave my buckles out of this. Kale paused. His gaze sharpened. Tavia realized her mistake too late. He had not mentioned the buckles aloud. For one suspended breath, the Alpha King looked less like a ruler and more like a man whose private thoughts had just walked onto a balcony and waved a flag. You heard him, Kale realized. Tavia opened her mouth. The gray-coated man by the rear door moved. Kale moved faster. He did not strike. He did not snarl. He did not create the kind of scene that would break neutral zone law. He simply stepped in front of Tavia, blocked the room from her view, and gave one tiny shake of his head. Every watcher froze. Power filled the bar like pressure before thunder. Tavia felt the room deciding not to become a crime scene. Then Kale bent, slid one arm behind her knees, and lifted her. Not over his shoulder at first. That would have been outrageous. He lifted her in both arms as if she weighed less than his coat. Tavia's dignity objected with paperwork. Put me down, she snapped, bracing one hand against his shoulder. I have not agreed to royal transportation. His wolf sighed blissfully. She is in our arms. Excellent. Do not drop her. Do not sniff her hair. Absolutely do not say she is small. Kale's jaw tightened. Tavia narrowed her eyes. Did your wolf just call me small? Kale looked deeply pained. He lacks diplomacy. So did he. I am trying to save your life. With kidnapping posture, the wolf whispered, apologize while carrying. It shows range. Cal turned toward the door. I apologize for the posture. The entire bar stared. Tavia stared hardest. That apology was so stiff it should have come with hinges. She might have laughed if the gray-coated men had not started moving again. Cal felt it before she saw it. His arms tightened by half an inch. Not enough to hurt, enough to protect. Tavia's pride did not enjoy protection. Her pulse did. Tavia lowered her voice and chose survival over pride. They would use the back exit, turn left after 2 steps, and take the service alley with the old delivery gate. If his car was parked in front, she added, then he had parked like an idiot. Cal glanced down at her. His wolf sounded delighted. She plans escapes while being carried. Perfect, mate. We have chosen well. Tavia pointed at Kale's chest. Tell him I have not chosen anything. Kale pushed open the back door with one shoulder. Cold rain swept into the bar, sharp with wet stone and city smoke. Tavia smelled oil, old brick, and the metallic snap of a charm powering up somewhere near the alley. He can hear you, Kale warned. That information landed badly. The wolf responded with complete confidence. We are making a good impression. You are making a court case, Tavia told the wolf. Kale stepped into the alley. 3 figures moved from the shadows. Moon-silver charms glimmered at their wrists. Not weapons meant to kill. Restraints. Expensive ones. The glass hand wanted her alive, which was not comforting. Alive usually meant someone had questions, rituals, or invoices. Kale set Tavia on her feet behind him. That surprised her more than being lifted. He did not order her to stay. He did not shove her into a car. He simply placed himself between her and the collectors. Tavia Rook, called the nearest collector. His smile was thin. You left with property that does not belong to you. Tavia patted the front of her jacket. If you mean my dignity, I lost that inside. Kale's wolf snorted. Funny. Dangerous, but funny. Kale's human face stayed cold. The woman leaves with me. This is glass hand business. Then your business is finished. The collector looked at Kale's face, then at the gold in his eyes. Recognition struck him. It did not make him braver. It made him pale. Tavia saw the charm in the second man's hand pulse. She moved first. Her boot snapped out, catching the man's wrist. The charm flew into the puddle and sparked, sending blue light across the wet stones. Tavia spun, grabbed Kale's sleeve for balance, and regretted touching him almost at once. His wolf roared into her mind. She fights beautifully. Did you see that? Of course you saw that. We have eyes. Praise her. Praise her now. Kale caught the first collector by the collar and pinned him to the wall without looking away from Tavia. Good kick, he noted. It sounded like a military report. His wolf groaned. More feeling. Try again. Tavia ducked as the third collector lunged. You two are exhausting. Kale moved then. Not brutally, not messily. He used speed, pressure, and the terrifying economy of a king who knew exactly how little force was needed. In seconds, the collectors were on the ground, bound with their own moon-silver cords, conscious, furious, and deeply aware that their evening had failed. No blood, no spectacle, just humiliation. Tavia appreciated efficiency. She also noticed Kale never let the cords touch her. A black town car rolled into the alley without headlights. Its rear door opened. No driver stepped out. Kale gestured toward it. Get in. Tavia folded her arms. No, his wolf whispered. Ask better. Kale closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he opened them and tried again, this time with a please. The glass hand knew she had come here. More would follow. His safe house was warded, and she could leave once sober, briefed, and no longer surrounded by bounty hunters. That was better. Annoyingly better. My weapons stay with me, Tavia warned. 2 knives. 4. His brow lifted. 5 if you count the hairpin, but that one is sentimental. The wolf whispered, We count the hairpin. Kale nodded. Keep the hairpin. Give me the blades until you stop swaying. I am not swaying. The alley moved left in a way that did not support her argument. Kale waited. Tavia hated that he did not gloat. She hated more that his wolf was silently pleading with him not to smirk. She handed over 3 knives and kept the smallest one because she was a professional, not a saint. Kale did not mention it. His wolf did. She kept the boot knife. Adorable. If you call me adorable again, Tavia told the invisible wolf, I will teach your king embroidery with a blade. Kale opened the car door wider. He says he accepts the risk. Tavia climbed in. Only after she sat down did she realize the car smelled like cedar, rain, and him. Kale sat beside her, leaving a careful space between them. The car pulled away from the alley and into the wet silver streets of the city. Through the dark window, Tavia saw the rusted moon vanish behind a curtain of rain. Her freedom had not vanished. She repeated that to herself. Her freedom had not vanished. But the Alpha King's wolf had apparently moved into her head, unpacked several opinions, and begun measuring curtains. The safe house was not a house. It was a fortified townhouse on the Old North Ridge. Black stone, silver ward lines, rain-dark windows, and silent security made Tavia's professional instincts stretch like tired muscles. Kale called it temporary. Tavia called it what it was. This is a royal panic room with furniture, she observed as the front doors opened without anyone touching them. Kale walked beside her, one hand hovering near her elbow but not touching. It has guest rooms, his wolf supplied, and excellent blankets. She looks cold. Give her a blanket. Not our coat. Too intimate? Maybe our coat. Tavia stopped in the entry hall. Rainwater dripped from the ends of her hair onto polished black tile. A chandelier glowed overhead like trapped moonlight. Somewhere deeper in the house, old wards hummed in the walls. She looked at Kale. Your wolf is narrating blankets. Kale's expression did not change, but a muscle near his eye gave up. He is rarely quiet. That explains your face. His face, yes. The face of a man trapped in a meeting with himself. The wolf laughed so hard through the bond that Tavia pressed 2 fingers to her temple. Kale handed her a towel from a silver stand near the door. It looked too fine to have a practical purpose. Tavia used it to scrub rain from her hair with disrespectful enthusiasm. A woman in a dark security uniform stepped into the hall. Tall, broad-shouldered, iron gray hair in a severe braid. Her gaze flicked from Kale to Tavia to the mud on the tile. Your Majesty, she said. The collectors are secured. Their charms match glass hand manufacture. Thank you, Captain Elira. Elira's eyes shifted to Tavia. And this is? Kale paused. The wolf shouted, Mate. Kale's jaw hardened. Tavia spoke first. A guest with legal concerns. Elira looked at Tavia's wet boots, the towel in her hands, and the way Kale stood half a step closer than any cautious ruler should. I see. She clearly saw too much. No, Tavia cut in. Elira blinked. No? Whatever you think you see, reduce it by half and add paperwork. The wolf murmured. She is funny when cornered. Corner her gently. Kale's voice dropped. Do not corner her. Elira's eyebrows rose. Tavia slowly turned her head toward him. You answered him out loud, she pointed out. For the first time since the bar, Kale looked genuinely caught. Not by an enemy. By his own mouth. Tavia smiled. It was not a sweet smile, it was a blade that had found a gap in armor. This is going to be a long night for you, Your Majesty. His wolf whispered with complete satisfaction. We hope so. Kale dismissed Elira with instructions to tighten outer wards and question the collectors politely. Tavia noted the word politely. She also noted the way Elira nodded, as if polite questioning was a known royal technique and not a threat dressed for dinner. Then Kale guided Tavia through a corridor lined with old oil portraits. Every portrait was stern. Every portrait looked disappointed. Tavia pointed at one ancestor with silver hair and a collar high enough to injure diplomacy. That one would have fainted if I poked him. Kale glanced over. Vareth III outlawed fainting at court. Of course he did, his wolf added. He fainted twice. Family records lie. Tavia laughed before she could stop herself. The sound bounced off the corridor stones, too bright for the hour, too easy for the danger following her. Kale looked at her as if he had discovered a secret door in his own house. Tavia swallowed the laugh and pointed forward. Keep walking, tax enforcement. That is not my title. Your wolf disagrees. Kale opened the door to a guest suite. Warm light spilled across thick rugs, a low fire, a sitting area, and a bed large enough to make escape planning feel theatrical. A tray waited on the table. Coffee, water, bread, cheese, a bowl of spiced broth. Someone had moved fast. Tavia's stomach betrayed her with an audible sound. Kale's wolf nearly sparkled. Feed her. Carefully. She is defensive about broth. I am defensive about everything, Tavia snapped. Kale set her confiscated knives on the far table, still within sight but out of immediate reach. Eat first, threaten me after. Efficient. You prefer efficiency. That was true. Tavia did not like that he knew it. She crossed to the table and picked up the coffee. It was strong, bitter, and hot enough to remind her she had a body with consequences. Kale stood near the door, as if giving her the room. That was also annoying. A truly controlling man would have made it easy to hate him. Kale kept ruining her rhythm by doing almost the correct thing. You promised I could leave once sober and briefed, Tavia reminded him. Yes, she asked him to define sober. Able to walk in a straight line without insulting architecture. The wolf objected. She was accurate about the portraits. Tavia grinned into her coffee. Your wolf and I agree on art. Kale looked at the ceiling. It was the first helpless gesture she had seen from him, and it did more damage than any command. The Alpha King, feared ruler of the Iron Vale, could face black market collectors without blinking. But one loud wolf soul and one drunk fixer had him negotiating with Plaster. That was dangerous information. Tavia treasured dangerous information. Kale took a file from inside his coat and placed it on the table. The Bounty. The cover bore her name, several aliases, and a number large enough to make her feel briefly flattered. That's insulting, she objected. Kale frowned. The amount? The spelling. They used Tavia with a Y. Amateur work. His wolf growled. We will correct them. Kale sat opposite her, keeping the table between them. The glass hand believes you stole a transaction archive from their sealed ledger vault. I did steal it. They believed she had not copied it. That was generous of them. His eyes sharpened. Tavia took a sip of broth. It tasted better than it had any right to taste. I copied pieces. Not all. The master archive is locked behind a rotating passphrase I had not broken yet. I hid the drive. Where? She gave him a look over the rim of the bowl. Kale inclined his head. Fair. His wolf whispered. Trust takes time. Also, broth helps. Tavia tried not to smile. She failed by one corner of her mouth. Kale saw it. His face stayed severe, but the wolf inside him went silent in a way that felt odd. Oh, the wolf breathed. Keep that. Tavia set the bowl down too hard. Your wolf is embarrassing both of us. He is embarrassing me, Kale corrected. You seem entertained. Professionally, of course. Is that a profession? Everything is if you invoice properly. The fire popped in the hearth. Rain tapped against the windows. Beneath those ordinary sounds, the wards hummed in a steady silver pulse. Tavia allowed herself to feel the room. Exits, locks, window latches, hidden panels, ward seams. The habits of survival moved through her without thought. Cal watched, not interrupting. She expected him to tell her she was safe. Men with power loved saying that word, safe, as if it became true because they owned the door. Cal did not say it. Instead, he slid a small brass key across the table. He slid over a small brass key and explained that the inner lock was hers. It opened from inside only, and he would not enter without permission unless the wards broke or the house was on fire. Tavia stared at the key. His wolf muttered, Good. Very good. We are learning. The tiny metal thing rested between them, ridiculous and heavy. You are not very good at kidnapping, Tavia observed. Kale's mouth almost betrayed him again. I am attempting not to kidnap you. After carrying me out of a bar. After asking poorly, yes. After buying my evening with terror. After apologizing for the posture, the wolf added. It was a good apology, stiff but sincere. Tavia laughed again. This time Kale did smile. It was brief. It was small. It was devastatingly inconvenient. Tavia picked up the key before she did something foolish, like trust the smile. I sleep with weapons, she warned. I assumed. She set traps. I expected. She snored when poisoned, concussed, or furious. I will alert medical staff, his wolf whispered. We will listen fondly. Absolutely not, Tavia told the wolf. Kale stood, taking the empty bowl from the edge of the table before she could pretend she had not finished it. Rest. At dawn, we discuss the glass hand. At dawn, I leave. Then at dawn, you leave briefed. He walked to the door. Tavia held the key between two fingers. Kale, he stopped. His name felt strange on her tongue. Less like a title, more like a risk. If your wolf says mate one more time tonight, I am charging rent. The wolf whispered, worth it. Kale closed his eyes. Tavia smiled into her coffee as the door shut behind him. She set 3 traps before sleeping. One at the door, one at the window, and one under the rug near the bed. They were simple, elegant, and only mildly humiliating. A tripwire connected to a brass lamp, a chair angled against the latch, a line of powder taken from the fireplace ash to show footprints. Then she locked the inner door, tucked the sentimental hairpin under her pillow, and lay down fully dressed. The bed was offensively comfortable. Tavia distrusted it on principle. Comfort made people careless. Soft sheets suggested permanence. Warmth asked questions survival did not like. She lasted 4 minutes. Sleep dropped over her hard and deep. She woke to the sound of a crash, a curse, and the Alpha King saying her name with intense restraint. Tavia opened one eye. Kale stood just inside the sitting room. One boot was caught in the tripwire, a brass lamp hung from his sleeve, and fireplace ash streaked his flawless black trousers. The door behind him was still closed. The inner lock was still turned. He had entered through the adjoining ward panel. Tavia sat up slowly. Her head hurt. Her mouth tasted like old lime and consequences. Her hair had escaped its pins and arranged itself according to criminal law. Good morning, she rasped. You look decorated. Kale held the lamp very still. The exterior wards pulsed. I came to check. His wolf was delighted. She trapped us. Excellent perimeter work. Praise the trap. Do not mention the ash. Tavia rubbed her forehead. You bypassed my lock. The ward panel opened from the hall. I did not think of it as the door. Tavia informed him that this was exactly the kind of sentence kings said before laws got written about them. Kale looked at the ash on his trousers. His wolf whispered, apologize. Then ask about the powder ratio. Kale carefully freed his boot from the tripwire. I apologize. I should have knocked through the wall. Tavia stared. His face remained grave. She laughed so hard her headache complained. Kale's shoulders eased by a fraction. He set the lamp upright on a side table, the shade tilted at an accusing angle. The wards pulsed because I threw a shoe at the window in my sleep, Tavia said. Why? It had been a dream argument. Did you win? Obviously. The window surrendered. His wolf sighed. Magnificent. Tavia pointed at him. No. Kale looked almost innocent. I did not speak. Your wolf breathed admiration at me. That is difficult to prevent. He had brought breakfast. Not on a royal tray, not with servants. Just a covered plate, coffee, 2 hangover tonics, and a folded note from Elira that read, The collectors talked. Politely. Tavia liked Elira already. She took the coffee first. Kale stood by the table, waiting until she chose a chair before he sat. The gesture was subtle. It said he remembered last night. It said he had power and was choosing not to lean on it. That was more dangerous than arrogance. Kale explained that the glass hand had paid 3 crews to watch the rusted moon. They were not acting on instinct. Someone had leaked where she would be. Tavia broke a piece of toast. Only 5 people knew I closed the subway tunnel contract. Names. No. Kale's eyes hardened. His wolf groaned. Wrong face. That is the tax face again. Tavia pointed the toast at him. Your wolf agrees with me. My wolf agrees with you because he has abandoned governance. Smart wolf, she thought. Infuriating wolf. The wolf agreed. Accurate. Tavia ate the toast. She would never admit it, but the food steadied the world. Her hangover receded from disaster to regional inconvenience. Kale spread several papers across the table. Routes, names, payment trails. The glass hand symbol appeared again and again, a silver palm with 5 black lines across it. Kale named their leader as Martin Croy, a polished businessman the city called a patron of private security. The Crown called him what he was, Expensive mold. Kale paused. His wolf considered this. Good insult. Write it down. Kale continued with admirable discipline, admitting that Croy had bought influence inside the lower council. He had been building a case quietly. Too quietly, perhaps. Let me guess. You did not tell anyone because you trust nobody, sleep poorly, and think delegation is a decorative custom. He stared at her. The wolf whispered, "She sees us. This is alarming. We like it." Tavia tapped the file. "I work with paranoid men for a living." "I am not paranoid. You have 3 ward layers around a breakfast room." "2," he corrected. "The third is in the floor." Kale looked down. His wolf laughed. Tavia's smile came too easily. She smothered it with coffee. The work should have been simple. She would trade him limited information. He would give her safe passage to her apartment. She would recover the drive, vanish for a month, and crack the archive. Then she would sell evidence to the judiciary and resume a life without royal wolf commentary at breakfast. That was the plan. It lasted until Elira entered without knocking, saw the lamp on the wrong table, the ash on Kale's trousers, and Tavia's hairpin in her hand. Elira stopped. "Should I ask?" "No," Tavia and Kale said together. The wolf whispered, "We sound married." Tavia choked on coffee. Kale turned his head, his ears faintly red. Elira's expression became a masterpiece of professional restraint. Elira reported that Croy's crews had orders to bring Tavia in before tomorrow's council recess. Alive, quietly, and preferably before she spoke to the crown. Tavia waved her toast. Too late. "There is more," Elira continued. "One collector claimed Croy already has part of the archive." Tavia stopped chewing. The room changed. Kale noticed. Of course he noticed. His wolf went still. "Impossible," Tavia breathed. It was not impossible. She hated that. She had taken the archive from a sealed ledger vault beneath a fake antiques firm. She had copied fragments, but the master drive was hidden in a place only she knew. Unless someone had found her failsafe. Unless someone close had sold the location. Kale's voice softened. "Where is it?" Tavia looked at him. The answer sat behind her teeth. She did not trust kings. She did not trust councils. She did not trust warm rooms and hot coffee and wolves who called her magnificent for trapping royalty with a lamp. But she trusted patterns. And this pattern had teeth. "My apartment," she said. "Behind the breaker panel. If Croy has it, someone got into my walls." Elira glanced at Kale. Kale stood. "We go now." Tavia stood too fast, swayed, and caught the table. His hand lifted, then stopped before touching her. "Good," his wolf whispered. "Ask." Kale's face tightened at the private instruction, but he obeyed it. "May I?" Tavia hated how much that mattered. "Elbow only," she allowed. He offered his arm. She took it. The contact opened the line to his wolf like a door kicked off its hinges. "Steady." "She is still hurt by something older than last night. Do not hold too tight. Also, she needs better boots." Tavia looked down at her decorative buckles. "Everyone in this house is obsessed with my boots." Kale guided her into the hall. "They are a tactical concern. They are beautiful. They were loud. So am I." The wolf answered, "Yes." Kale did not argue. Tavia's apartment sat above a closed tailor's shop in the East Market district, down a staircase that smelled of dust, hot wires, and old rain trapped in brick. It was not charming. It was not tragic. It was a bolt hole with 3 exits, 4 false drawers, and a kettle that screamed like it had secrets. Or it had been. Now the door hung open. The lock had been melted clean through with a charm. Tavia went very still on the landing. Kale stood behind her, close enough that the heat of him brushed her back. Not touching. Waiting. His wolf whispered, "Rage later. Watch now." That was good advice. Tavia did not thank him. She stepped inside. Her apartment had been turned over with professional care. Not smashed, not messy, searched. Drawers open, floorboards tested, ward chalk broken. The kettle sat on its side, betrayed by gravity. Tavia crossed to the breaker panel. The panel cover was gone. So was the drive. For 1 second, the room tilted harder than Tequila had managed. She had lost jobs before. Money, hideouts, names, bloodless parts of herself she had chosen to cut away. But the archive mattered. The archive was leverage against Marden Croy. It was proof. It was the difference between the glass hand staying a shadow and becoming something the law could touch. Kale's wolf murmured, She is not afraid for herself. Tavia hated being read. Don't, she warned. Kale's voice came quietly. I did not. He did. He is learning badly. The apartment floor creaked behind them. Tavia and Kale turned at the same time. A young man stood in the narrow hallway beside the kitchen, hands raised, face pale. Hasker Pell, her occasional courier, her least annoying contact. 17 layers of nerves in a cheap coat. No weapons visible. Too visible. Tavia's stomach dropped. Hasker, she called. Tell me you came here after the door was opened. His eyes flicked to Kale, then back. Tavia, I can explain. Kale's wolf sighed. They always say that. Tavia drew the hidden boot knife. Kyle did not stop her. Hasker swallowed. Croy's people had my sister's debt. They said they only wanted the drive. They said nobody would get hurt. People who say that, Tavia noted, are usually standing near paperwork that hurts everyone. Hasker's face crumpled. The hurt in it was real. The betrayal was also real. Tavia had learned long ago that both could fit in the same person. Kyle stepped to one side, giving her the space to choose. That mattered too. Where did they take it? She asked. Hasker gave them the location in a shaking voice. Croy's ledger office under the Meridian Club. They were cracking the drive today because Croy wanted enough material to pressure the council before tomorrow's vote. Kale's expression became unreadable. His wolf did not stay quiet. Vote? What vote? Tavia looked at Kale. What vote? She asked aloud. Kale's silence answered before he did. Tavia's anger shifted shape. This was not only about her. Kale crossed the room to the broken window and looked down at the market street. Rain had stopped, leaving the stones glossy under morning light. His reflection in the glass looked older than it had at breakfast. Kale explained the timing. The council met tomorrow to renew emergency authority over black market enforcement, and he needed lower council support to freeze Glass Hand assets without waiting for territorial courts. Croy could not survive that. Tavia understood. So he uses my drive. He selects files that make my investigation look like collusion. He would turn Kale's evidence into Kale's scandal. Yes. His wolf whispered. We should have told her sooner. Tavia agreed. Kale knew it. He looked back at her, and the royal mask did not quite settle. I intended to brief you this morning. After breakfast and before more trap appreciation? The wolf muttered. Trap appreciation was valid. Tavia dragged one hand over her face. The apartment smelled like melted ward metal, dust, and betrayal. Her head throbbed. Her life had become a royal problem before noon, which felt unfair even by her standards. Hasker stood in the hallway, shaking. Kale looked at him. You will come with us. Hasker flinched. Tavia lifted the knife. No cages, no dramatic dungeon nonsense. A guarded room with food, Kale clarified. He gave information under coercion. His wolf added, also, she will hate us if we scare him. I can hear you being decent, Tavia muttered. Kale looked almost offended. I am often decent. Your public relations office is hiding that. Hasker made a tiny sound that might have been a laugh trying to survive fear. Tavia pointed the knife at him. Do not enjoy this. He nodded quickly. They left through the tailor shop below. Elira's team collected Hasker with brisk, non-theatrical competence. No threats, no chains. Just a coat over his shoulders and a promise that his sister would be located. Tavia watched until he was gone. Kale watched her. His wolf whispered, she keeps choosing mercy while pretending it is logistics. That one I heard, Tavia muttered. He is not wrong. He was often wrong. Not about you. The street noise filled the pause between them. Vendors arguing over awnings. A tram bell 2 blocks away. Rainwater dripping from a broken sign. Ordinary sounds, rude enough to continue while everything important shifted. Tavia tucked the knife away. We need the master drive back before Croy turns it into a crown-shaped weapon. Kale nodded. The Meridian Club is warded. I have been inside. Of course she had. Don't sound so admiring. I was attempting neutral. His wolf supplied. Failed. Tavia started walking. Good. Neutral is boring. The Meridian Club had once been a private bank. It still looked like money had grown roots there and refused to leave. White stone columns rose over polished brass doors. The lobby smelled of expensive smoke, old paper, and men who confused volume with authority. By daylight, it served as a members' club for investors, solicitors, and PAC officials who liked pretending their deals were too refined for the word bribe. By night, the lower vaults became a ledger exchange for the glass hand. Tavia had entered twice before, once through the roof, once through a laundry cart. Today, Kale wanted to walk through the front door. Tavia looked at him on the opposite sidewalk. He wore a clean charcoal coat Elira had produced from nowhere. His hair was damp from the weather. His expression had returned to royal winter. "No," she said. "You have not heard the plan. The plan is your face. The answer is no." His wolf agreed. "She is correct. Our face is recognizable." Kale gave the heir a betrayed glance. Tavia bit back a smile. "You cannot sneak into a criminal club as yourself. I can enter as myself and request cooperation." That was not sneaking. That was weather. Weather? Everyone sees you coming, panics, and later claims nothing could be done. The wolf rumbled with amusement. "We are weather." Kale looked at the club doors, then at Tavia. "What do you suggest?" She loved that question more than she should. It was not surrender. It was respect. A king asking a rogue how to break into a room built by men who feared rogues. Tavia pointed to the service entrance down the side street. "You are my difficult client." Difficult? Wealthy. Intimidating. Undertrained in subtlety. Undertrained, he repeated. "Do not repeat everything like a wounded dictionary." His wolf whispered, "We are learning many things today." 20 minutes later, Kale Varanth walked into the Meridian Club wearing a plain dark coat and a courier badge. He also wore the expression of a man enduring spiritual injury. Tavia had powdered silver-gray dust through his hair to dull the recognizable black. She had added tinted lenses over the gold eyes. Then she had handed him a stack of fake legal folders and told him to look underpaid. He looked like an underpaid executioner. It was the best she could do. "Relax your shoulders," she murmured as they approached the service desk. "They are relaxed." "Your coat is afraid of you," the wolf announced. "She dressed us. This is courtship." Kale nearly missed a step. Tavia held in a laugh so hard it made her ribs ache. At the service desk, a bored clerk barely glanced up. "Deliveries to the left." Tavia leaned forward with a tired smile. She had chosen her own disguise carefully. Plain coat, worn gloves, hair pinned low, the look of a legal assistant who had not been thanked since winter. "Urgent amendments for Master Croy's archive review," she told him. His office said lower vault intake. The clerk lifted a hand toward a ledger. Kale's wolf whispered, "He will ask for a seal." Tavia touched Kale's sleeve to hear better. The wolf's instincts sharpened through contact. "Seal. Bottom drawer. Brass. He is lazy. He will use yesterday's." Tavia smiled before the clerk spoke. "Seal?" he asked. She sighed with the exact exhaustion of a woman surrounded by incompetent superiors. "If they forgot to mark it again, Croy can explain why his amendments missed the packet." No clerk in history wanted to be between a rich criminal and missing paperwork. He opened the drawer, stamped the folder himself, and waved them through. Kale waited until they entered the side corridor before murmuring, "You manipulated him with bureaucracy." The deadliest weapon in modern society. His wolf sounded reverent. She understands statecraft. They reached the lower stairs. The air changed as they descended. Warm lobby smoke gave way to cold stone, ink, and ward oil. Silver lines ran along the walls. Not lethal. Alert wards. Binding wards. The kind that trapped intruders long enough for polite men to become impolite. Tavia stopped at the first landing. "Do not touch the left rail." Kale looked down. "Trip ward?" "Ego ward. It senses authority signatures." That was not a technical term. "It senses people who expect doors to open." His wolf whispered, "So us." "So you," Tavia confirmed. Kale stepped carefully away from the rail. They moved through 2 ward seams and 1 locked archive gate. Tavia bypassed the gate with a brass pin, 2 murmured insults, and the tiny sentimental hairpin Kale had wisely not confiscated. The lock clicked. Kale's wolf applauded inside her skull. Tavia flinched. No clapping, Kale whispered. He cannot clap. He found a way emotionally. At the bottom of the stairs, voices drifted from the main ledger room. Tavia held up a hand. Kale stopped at once. That obedience did something strange to her chest. She ignored it. Martin Croy stood in the ledger room beside a long black table. He was lean, silver-haired, handsome in the polished way of expensive knives. Around him, clerks sorted papers, charms, and data slates. No violence, no shouting. Just the quiet machinery of reputation destruction. On the table sat Tavia's master drive, small, black, infuriatingly visible. Croy did not touch it. A woman in a pale suit operated a decoding charm above it. The charm pulsed with rotating symbols. Kale's hand brushed Tavia's sleeve. The wolf's voice came tight and low. 6 guards, 2 ward clerks, Croy. The woman with the charm is close to opening it. Tavia scanned the room. She could steal the drive, maybe, but not without triggering the chamber wards. And if the drive was mid-decode, pulling it wrong could wipe enough data to ruin everything. Then Croy spoke. Croy ordered the first packet sent to Counselor Naven once it was ready. The payment context was to be left out. They only needed enough to make Voranth look bought. Kale went still. The wolf's anger rose like heat. Not wild, focused, dangerous. Tavia touched his wrist, not to comfort, but to ground him before royal weather ruined the ceiling. Kale looked at her. She mouthed, "Not yet." His wolf whispered, "We listen." That almost undid her. Tavia slipped a small glass bead from her pocket. It was not a weapon. It was a distraction bead, designed to mimic a minor ward fault. She rolled it along the floor toward the far corner. It struck the wall and released a soft blue pulse. Every ward line in the corner flickered. The clerks turned. Tavia moved. She crossed the room low and fast, keeping behind the high archive shelves. Kale followed with shocking silence for a man built like a royal problem. They reached the table's blind side as 2 guards moved toward the false fault. The decoding charm hovered over the drive. Tavia studied the rotating symbols. "Bad news," she whispered. Kale leaned close. "How bad?" "If I remove it now, it might lock for a month." Kale asked for the good news. "I can redirect the output." "To where?" she smiled. Kale's wolf whispered, "Oh, that smile means crime." Tavia connected a thin, silver thread from her hairpin to the charm's base. The thread carried a tiny address token from her emergency cache. Not the full archive, a receiving mirror. If the charm cracked the drive, it would send every decoded packet to her hidden server before Croy saw the selected files. It was inelegant. It was rude. It was the kind of thing that made criminals blame one another. Croy's pale-suited decoder frowned. "Something is pulling." Tavia froze. Kale stepped from behind the shelf before she could stop him. His disguise was still in place. His posture was not. "Delivery for Master Croy," he offered in a flat voice. Tavia almost groaned. The entire ledger room turned. Kale held up the folder stamped by the lazy clerk upstairs. Croy's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" Kale's wolf muttered. "Underpaid. Look underpaid." Kale's face remained terrifyingly royal. Tavia stepped out beside him, snatched the folder, and snapped at Kale before anyone else could react. "I told you not to interrupt the intake review." Kale looked down at her. For 1 second, he appeared genuinely startled. "Good." Tavia jabbed a finger at his folder and scolded him as if he were a courier who had ruined her morning. He carried things and loomed, she implied, while she did the apologizing when amendments missed sealed packets. The room relaxed by 1 inch. No one wanted to be near a paperwork fight. Croy looked amused. "And you are?" Tavia turned with the weary fury of an assistant 3 minutes from resignation and claimed she had been given 3 intake protocols since sunrise. If this was the wrong room, she said, the nearest canal was starting to look merciful. Kale's wolf protested. "No canals." Tavia ignored him. Croy gestured to a clerk. "Take the packet." The clerk crossed toward them. Behind Croy, the decoding charm pulsed green. The thread in Tavia's hairpin warmed. It was working. The mirror was receiving. Then the pale-suited decoder looked up sharply. "Master Croy, the output is splitting." Time folded. Kale threw the fake folder into the nearest guard's face. Tavia lunged for the drive. Wards flared across the floor in hard white lines. A binding loop snapped around her ankle. She hit the table with one hand, grabbed the drive with the other, and felt silver pressure bite through her boot. Not cutting. Burning. She hissed. Kale's roar filled the chamber. No gore, no chaos. Just sound and power, enough to knock papers from shelves and shatter every glass ink pot on the table. The guards froze. Croy stepped back, suddenly recognizing the weather he had invited indoors. Kale tore the tinted lenses from his eyes. Gold light filled his stare. "Martin Croy!" His voice was cold enough to turn fear into obedience. "You are holding Crown evidence and conspiring against the council." Croy recovered faster than most men would have. "Your Majesty!" What an unusual entrance. Tavia twisted the drive free and yanked at the binding loop. It tightened. Kale's wolf snapped through her head. "Hurt. She is hurt. Remove the ward. Remove it now." Kale crossed the room. The guards did not stop him. Their survival instincts were apparently unionized. Croy lifted a hand, and the pale decoder slammed both palms onto the ward table. The chamber lights turned red. Every exit sealed. An alarm began to pulse, soft and polite. That was somehow worse than a loud one. Tavia looked at Kale. "Your subtle plan is going beautifully." "My plan?" He had walked out first. "You smiled like crime." "That was a private expression." His wolf admitted. "We enjoyed it." Kale knelt and gripped the silver ward around her ankle. Pain flashed through his hand. He did not flinch. Tavia felt the echo of it through the contact, sharp and hot. "Do not," she snapped. "Too late." He broke the loop. The release snapped through the room. Tavia stumbled forward. Kale caught her by the waist, steady and brief, then let go as soon as she had balance. Even in crisis, he remembered. That did not help her feelings. Elira's voice crackled through the communication charm at Kale's collar. "Your Majesty, the club wards just screamed." Tavia grabbed the charm before Kale could answer. "We are fine," Define screamed. There was a pause. "Miss Rook?" "Yes," Tavia confirmed. "Why do you have the king's collar charm?" "Because he is busy being subtle." Elira exhaled once. "I am sending the team." "Send legal witnesses too," Tavia added. Croy was kind enough to speak in a room full of clerks. Croy's expression chilled. He gestured toward the clerks. "Leave." Kale's command cut across his. "Stay." The clerks stayed. Several looked like they might prefer the canal. Croy's smile thinned. "You have no warrant." Tavia held up the drive. "No, but we have your decoding charm, your witness clerks, and a live output mirror sending copies to 3 external addresses." Kale looked at her. His wolf whispered, "3?" Tavia shrugged. "I was being cautious." "I thought you said 1, Kale murmured. "That was before your face ruined stealth." Croy's jaw tightened. "You do not know what is on that archive." "I know enough," Tavia answered. "You know fragments." His confidence pricked at her. Kale noticed that too. Croy stepped closer, careful to stay outside Kale's reach. He warned that the archive could damage everyone who had touched his network: crown officers, council clerks, the judiciary, even private security. Tavia felt Kale go still. Croy smiled. "You think you are exposing corruption. You are releasing a storm no one can control." The room held its breath. Then Kale's wolf whispered, "He is trying to make truth sound messy enough to fear." Tavia looked at Kale. He had heard that one too. In whatever private way wolf and man shared, the Alpha King's face changed. Not softer, clearer. "Then we control the release," Kale decided. "We do not bury it." Tavia's chest tightened. That was the sentence of a man choosing inconvenience over rot. She disliked how attractive integrity became when paired with ruined stealth and ash-stained trousers. The outer door thundered open. Elira entered with crown security, 2 judiciary witnesses, and a lower council clerk who looked deeply upset to be conscious. The Meridian Club surrendered to procedure, which was less dramatic than a fight and much more satisfying to Tavia. Croy was not arrested. Not yet. He was too connected, too careful, and too prepared. But his ledger room was sealed. His clerks were interviewed. His decoding charm was taken as evidence. The master drive was placed in a crown evidence case under Tavia's protest. It returned to her custody after Kale calmly noted that she was the only reason they had it. That had been a nice moment, almost. Then his wolf added, also because she is ours. Tavia stepped on Kale's foot, not hard, enough. By the time they returned to the Ridge safe house, evening had settled over the city. Rain clouds tore open near the horizon, leaving a strip of molten light across the old roofs. Tavia's ankle burned where the ward had caught her. Her head ached again. Her hands smelled faintly of silver thread and club dust. Kale insisted on calling a healer. Tavia insisted she was fine. Kale's wolf insisted she was lying. The healer, a dry woman named Marrow, took one look at all three arguments and ordered everyone into the sitting room. Boot off, Marrow told Tavia. No. Marrow used her name like a warning. It is a minor burn. Marrow looked at Kale. Your Majesty, explain to your guest that silver ward burns can scar if neglected. Kale opened his mouth. Tavia pointed at him. Choose your tone with care. His wolf whispered, beg. No, negotiate. Offer replacement boots. Kale offered to replace the boots if she allowed treatment and Marrow damaged them. Tavia considered this. Marrow looked offended. I do not damage boots. These boots are emotionally significant, Tavia insisted. Kale nodded with grave respect. That did it. The laugh broke out of her, tired and unwilling. She sat, unlaced the decorative buckles, and let Marrow inspect the burn. Kale stood by the mantel, pretending not to hover. He failed. Every few seconds, his gaze returned to her ankle. His wolf was worse. Pain level? Ask pain level. She will lie. Ask anyway. Offer hand. No, she may bite. We accept biting. Tavia leaned back against the chair. Your wolf needs a hobby. Kel's eyes flicked toward Marrow. The healer did not react. Apparently, she could not hear the wolf, which Tavia found unfair. Everyone should share this burden. He used to enjoy silence, Kel murmured. I doubt that. So do I now. Marrow applied a cool paste to the burn. Tavia hissed, then pretended she had not. Kel's fingers tightened on the mantel. His wolf went very quiet. That silence brushed her more gently than any words could have. Tavia looked away first. The healer wrapped the ankle and gave instructions. Rest. No running. No ward breaking. No dramatic vault infiltrations for at least 48 hours. Tavia accepted none of this verbally. Kale accepted all of it on her behalf. She threw a cushion at him after Marrow left. He caught it. His wolf whispered, Gift? Weapon, Tavia corrected. Kale set the cushion carefully on a chair. Soft weapon. Do not patronize my arsenal. For dinner, Elira brought files, sandwiches, and bad news. Croy had petitioned the lower council for an emergency review of Kale's anti-syndicate authority. He claimed the Alpha King had illegally raided a private club, intimidated clerks, and colluded with a rogue fixer to fabricate evidence. The review was moved to the next morning. Tavia chewed slowly. He moves fast. Elira nodded. He had this prepared. Kale stood at the window, one hand behind his back. The last light cut across his profile. He had cleaned up after the Meridian Club, changed coat, restored every visible sign of rule. He looked untouchable. His wolf did not. Through the thin contact of Tavia's shoulder against his chair earlier, the wolf's worry still lingered in her senses. A restless pacing, a fear that was not for his crown first, but for the people under it. That irritated her. Villains were easier when their enemies were vain. Kel cared. Care made people complicated. Croy will use selected fragments, Tavia predicted. He will show payments routed through crown accounts and leave out the operation codes. Elira tapped a file. Can we prove context? If I crack the archive tonight. Kel turned from the window. Marrow said rest. Marrow said no dramatic vault infiltrations. Marrow had also said no running. Cracking a drive is sitting with Menace, his wolf whispered. She needs snacks for Menace. Tavia pointed at the sandwich plate. Already handled. Elira looked between them. I am missing a conversation. Be grateful, Kale advised. They worked through the night. Tavia sat at a wide desk in the safe house library. She had the master drive, 3 decoding charms, and coffee strong enough to qualify as a defensive measure. Kale reviewed council procedures at the next table. Elira managed incoming reports with dead-eyed stamina. The library smelled of leather, old paper, hot wax, and rain-damp coats. A fire burned low. Ward light pulsed along the shelves. Tavia cracked the first cipher near midnight. The archive opened like a flower made of knives. Transactions. Names. Shell holdings, charm purchases, council bribes, shipment routes, medical invoices for ward burns, blackmail packets, Crown operation files stolen and rearranged to look damning. It was all there. Too much. Croy had not exaggerated the mess. Tavia leaned back, eyes gritty. Well? Kale looked up. Your counsel is either corrupt, compromised, careless, or allergic to receipts. Elira closed her eyes. How many? Enough to ruin breakfast. Kale came to stand behind her chair, not too close. Can we separate the fabricated narrative from the real one? Yes, with time. They had 9 hours. Then with spite. His wolf whispered, spite is powerful. Feed her more coffee. Kale silently refilled her cup. Tavia glanced at him. You are becoming useful. A lifelong ambition. She warned him not to get smug. I would not dare. His wolf whispered, we dare a little. Tavia worked. The night became a rhythm of keys, pages, and quiet discoveries. Every hour, Kale placed a new file in front of her with the patience of a man who wanted to help and knew better than to take over. Every half hour, his wolf betrayed him. She blinked too slowly. Ask if she is tired. She rubbed her wrist. The ward burn may be spreading. She smiled at that ledger. Why are we jealous of a ledger? Tavia began answering without looking up. I am not tired. Her wrist was fine. The ledger has better manners. Elira eventually stopped asking. At 3 a.m, Tavia found the hinge. It was not a payment trail, not a bribe list, not even Croy's correspondence with council allies. It was a sealed audio charm attached to an internal glass-hand memo. The file showed Croy's plan to manufacture a no-confidence review against Kale, force a caretaker council, and gain emergency control of anti-syndicate warrants through his allies. In plain language, he planned to make the king's own legal reforms protect the glass hand. Tavia played the audio once. Croy's voice filled the library, smooth as polished stone. Voranth is too clean to survive dirt. Give the council enough mud, and they will bury him for us. Kale did not move. Elira swore under her breath. Tavia stopped the charm. That is the center. Kale's wolf whispered, he thinks clean means weak. Tavia looked at Kale. He is wrong, she answered before she could stop herself. Kale's gaze shifted to her. The moment stretched. It should have been dramatic. Then Tavia's coffee cup slid off a stack of files because she had balanced it like an idiot. Kale caught it midair. Not one drop spilled. Tavia stared at his hand. His wolf whispered, we saved the coffee. She will love us now. Tavia burst out laughing. Elira put her face in both hands. Kale set the cup down with great dignity. The coffee was evidence adjacent. Evidence adjacent, Tavia repeated, laughing harder. It could have damaged the packet. He had moved faster for coffee than for Croy. Croy was not falling. His wolf added, coffee cannot defend itself. Tavia laughed until her eyes watered, which was probably sleep deprivation and not tenderness. Definitely not tenderness. Kale watched her with that dangerous, almost smile. The night felt lighter after that. Not safe, never safe, but shared. By dawn, Tavia had built the counter packet, clean timelines, full payment context, Croy's audio, the list of compromised council aides, the false packets he intended to use. Every piece labeled so even a sleepy official could understand it, which was important because official comprehension was a fragile civic resource. Tavia slumped back in the chair. There. She leaned back. One crown-saving paperwork avalanche. Kale stood beside the desk. His shirt sleeves were rolled to the forearms. His hair had fallen out of its perfect shape. A faint line of ink marked his thumb. He looked less like a distant king and more like a man who had spent the night learning where truth hid its teeth. Thank you, he told her. No title, no command, no royal polish. Just 2 words with weight. His wolf whispered, also tell her she is brilliant. Kale did not look away. You are brilliant. Tavia's chest did something foolish. She covered it by gathering papers. Your wolf is coaching you. This time I agreed. Elira stood. The review begins in 2 hours. Tavia reached for her boots. Kale looked at her wrapped ankle. No, she said. I have not spoken. His face was preparing a restriction. Your ankle is injured. My patience is injured. His wolf whispered, She will come anyway. Find better boots. Kyle walked to a cabinet near the library wall. He opened it and removed a pair of black tactical boots, soft-soled, reinforced, with adjustable silver safe buckles. Tavia stared. Tavia asked why he had those. Kyle explained that Elira kept emergency gear in every formal room. From the doorway, Elira added that every formal room became informal during a crisis. Tavia took the boots. They fit perfectly. That was suspicious. Kale's wolf sounded smug. We estimated well. Tavia pointed one boot at Kale. If this is courtship, it is alarmingly practical. Kale's eyes warmed. I am told I needed improvement. You did. Do I? Tavia tied the laces, buying herself 3 seconds. You have reached functional. His wolf sighed with joy. Functional. She likes us. Barely, Tavia added. The lower council chamber occupied the old exchange hall. It was a vast circular room with carved stone walls, modern recording charms, and seats arranged for dignified blame avoidance. Tavia entered beside Kale through the main doors. Conversation died. She wore borrowed black trousers, the new boots, her own battered jacket, and the expression of a woman willing to invoice the room for wasting her time. Kale wore dark formal clothes and the crown chain of the iron veil, a simple band of black metal at his throat. No gold, no jewels, just old authority. His wolf whispered, She is beside us. Good. Walk slower. No, normal. Do not look proud. We are proud, Tavia murmured. Your wolf is about to start waving. Kale's mouth twitched. I will restrain him. The chamber clerk announced the review. Croy sat at the opposition table, immaculate in a pale gray suit. Several counselors sat near him with the rigid faces of people who had already chosen a lie and were waiting for it to become convenient. Counselor Naven, narrow-eyed and silver-bearded, rose first. He accused Kale of unauthorized operations, misuse of crown funds, and improper alliance with a rogue criminal. At that phrase, half the chamber looked at Tavia. Tavia smiled at them. Several looked away. Kale's wolf whispered, Good smile. Very sharp. Naven presented selected files from Croy's packet. Payments, crown seals, operation dates. Enough truth to make the lie sturdy. Kale listened without interruption. That was impressive. Tavia would have interrupted at least 6 times and possibly thrown something dull. When Naven finished, Croy stood. Croy rose with a smooth, sorrowful voice and reframed the accusation as a question of judgment. He suggested Kale meant well, but that personal obsession and secretive methods had compromised the crown. Tavia felt the chamber shift. Personal obsession. There it was, the attempt to make the bond into evidence against him. Kale's wolf growled, quiet and furious. They will use her to wound us. Tavia touched Kale's sleeve. The growl steadied. Croy gestured toward Tavia and described her as a rogue contractor with black market ties. He made the Meridian Club raid sound like personal recklessness, then painted her overnight evidence packet as something too convenient to trust. The room murmured. Tavia waited. Kale turned his head slightly and asked if she was ready. His voice was low enough that only she heard. The wolf whispered, Ask her like an equal. Kale had. That was the problem. Tavia rose. She did not hurry to the center of the chamber. Hurrying made people think they owned your time. She walked as if the floor owed her money. Tavia introduced herself as a rogue fixer. Then she observed that half the room thought she was beneath them, while the other half had probably hired someone like her under a false name. The chamber went very still. Kale's wolf whispered, Strong opening. Tavia did not smile. She admitted stealing the glass hand archive, but explained why. Croy's people used debt contracts, forged charms, and bribed clerks to trap half the East Market under his thumb. She had copied enough to know the archive mattered and hidden the rest because powerful men so often used truth badly. She turned to Croy. Thank you for proving me efficient. A tiny sound passed through the chamber. Not quite laughter. The beginning of it. Croy's expression hardened. Tavia activated the display charm. The wall behind her filled with files. Tavia walked the council through Naven's missing context. The payments from Crown accounts were controlled buys against glass hand intermediaries, not secret bribes. The screen shifted. The medical invoices were treatment records for agents injured by ward burns during legal surveillance, not private favors. Another shift. The message between Elira's office and a glass hand courier had a court authorization attached. Naven had simply removed the page that made it legal. Elira sat like stone at the crown table. Tavia admired her restraint. Then Tavia played Croy's audio. Voranth is too clean to survive dirt. Give the council enough mud, and they will bury him for us. The chamber erupted. This time, Tavia let them make noise. People believed truth better when allowed to react to it. Kale stood only when the clerk called for order. His voice carried without force as he confirmed that the full archive had already been mirrored to the territorial judiciary, the Crown Record, and an independent oath auditor. No counselor would be asked to trust a selected packet. Several faces paled. Tavia added, "If you were bribed, now is an excellent time to discover a medical condition and leave quietly." That earned real laughter from the upper benches. Not from everyone. Enough. Croy tried to recover. "This is theater." "No," Tavia said. "Theater has better lighting." Kale's wolf whispered. "Perfect." She continued before smiling became dangerous, laying out the timeline instead of arguing. Croy's decoder had opened the drive at the Meridian Club. His charm had split the output. His own system had produced the copy now in judicial custody. Croy looked toward Naven. Naven did not look back. That was the first public crack. Kale stepped forward and froze all assets connected to Croy's glass hand accounts pending judiciary review. Counselor Naven and the named aides were ordered to surrender their seals until cleared. The chamber clerk looked ready to faint. Tavia wondered if fainting was still outlawed by Vareth III. Then a younger counselor near the back stood. "And Miss Rook?" he asked. "What is her status?" Ah, there it was. Not gratitude. Classification. Kale's power shifted beside her. Tavia expected him to answer too fast. Expected the wolf to shout mate. Expected the room to turn her into a symbol, a weakness, a scandal, or a crown problem. Kale did none of that. He looked at her first. Not for permission to claim. For permission to speak. The entire chamber saw it. So did Tavia. Her heart gave one hard, inconvenient beat. She nodded once. Kale faced the council and stated the answer plainly. Tavia Rook had preserved evidence their own systems failed to protect, and she had seen Croy's trap clearly before it closed. His wolf whispered, "And mate." Kale's jaw tightened. Tavia leaned toward him and murmured, "Careful." Kale's eyes flicked with humor. Then he added, "Her personal connection to me is not the reason her evidence matters. That is precisely the point." The answer landed better than a public declaration would have. It also ruined several counselors' prepared disapproval. Tavia enjoyed that. The vote collapsed within 20 minutes. Naven's motion failed. The emergency authority passed with new oversight. Croy was not dragged out. He was escorted out under judiciary order, polished shoes silent against stone, face pale with the rage of a man discovering paperwork could bite back. As he passed Tavia, he spoke softly enough that the clerks might miss it. "You think he will let you remain free?" Tavia smiled. "I think you should worry about your own schedule." Kale's wolf whispered, "We will let her choose. We will choose whatever keeps her near. Is that contradictory?" "Yes," Tavia whispered back. Kale heard her and looked mildly wounded. That made her smile for real. After the council, the city did not explode. That was one of the disappointments of adulthood. Most victories did not end with cheers. They ended with legal notices, frozen accounts, exhausted clerks, and someone asking where to file amended copies. The glass hand's visible offices were sealed by dusk. Croy's allies began resigning for health reasons, which apparently afflicted only people named in bribery logs. The judiciary took custody of the archive copies. Hasker's sister was found, frightened but unharmed, in a debt hostel Croy's shell company owned. Hasker cried when Tavia told him. She pretended not to notice. Kale noticed her pretending. His wolf commented on it. Tavia threatened both of them with a pastry fork. By the third evening, the Ridge Safe House had become too quiet. Quiet had always been Tavia's signal to leave. Staying after danger past made rooms start asking questions. Why not unpack? Why not sleep without boots? Why not believe the warmth was meant for you? Tavia hated sentimental architecture. She packed before dawn. It took 11 minutes. Knives, jacket, old boots, because the new ones felt too much like a gift. Hairpin, drive receipt copies, 2 sandwiches stolen from the kitchen because survival included snacks. The guest suite looked untouched after she finished, except for the lamp. The lamp still leaned wrong from Kale's encounter with her trap. Tavia almost fixed it. Then she left it crooked. Let the monarchy remember her accurately. She found Kale in the library. Of course she did. He stood by the long table where they had built the counter packet, reading a judiciary dispatch. Morning light touched the edges of his hair. He looked tired, restored, and far too much like a man who belonged in places with deep roots. Tavia stopped at the doorway. Kale looked up. He saw the bag. The room went quiet in a way that had nothing to do with sound. His wolf did not speak. That was worse. You are leaving, Kale said. Not a question. Tavia shifted the bag on her shoulder and reminded him that the bounty was dead. The drive was in custody, and Croy was busy discovering how much lawyers cost. Kale did not need a rogue fixer sleeping under his roof anymore. Kale folded the dispatch with careful hands. Through the strange, half-open bond between them, she felt the wolf pressing forward, not to claim, not to command, to mourn in advance. Kale held it back. That restraint hurt more than pressure would have. He agreed quietly. He did not need one. Tavia nodded once. Good. Clean. Horrible. He walked to the library door and opened it wider. He opened the library door wider and told her she was free to go. Then, with the faintest edge of self-reproach, he admitted that she had been free before, even if he had been worse at making that clear. The joke should have landed. It did not. Tavia looked at the open door. She had spent years measuring exits, finding them, using them, never trusting a room that had only one. Now the exit waited in front of her, offered by a man whose wolf had begged him to carry her home and now begged him to let her choose. Kale did not move. His hands stayed at his sides. His face was composed. His wolf was silent and aching. Tavia walked through the door. 3 steps into the hall, she stopped. The portraits watched her. Stern old rulers in high collars and severe expressions. Vareth III looked especially displeased, probably because fainting remained illegal and feelings had become a threat. Tavia stared at the crooked lamp visible through the open library door. She could leave. She had left worse. She had left safer. She had left people before they could decide she was too difficult, too sharp, too much trouble in pretty boots. Behind her, Kale did not call her name. That was the final unfairness. He would let her go properly. The wolf spoke at last, not to Kale, to her. Home does not lock the door. Tavia closed her eyes. That was manipulative, she whispered. The wolf answered softly. True. She turned around. Kale stood where she had left him, one hand on the open door, face still controlled. Only his eyes gave him away. Gold, not with command. With hope he was trying not to spend. Tavia walked back into the library and dropped her bag onto the table. The sound echoed through the shelves. Your safe house security is embarrassing, she announced. Kale blinked. His wolf lifted its head so fast, she felt it. Tavia listed the problems without mercy. The North Ward had a timing gap. The service entrance relied on a clerk who trusted stamps. The council briefing process was so slow it should have been registered as a sleeping charm. Elira was excellent, but she needed someone who thought like the people trying to rob them. Kale was very still. Are you offering criticism or employment? I am negotiating, his wolf whispered. Do not smile too fast. We will scare her. Kale's mouth stayed solemn. His eyes did not. Tavia lifted one finger and demanded her own quarters, her own lock, and an absolute ban on wall panel entrances unless something was actually on fire. Agreed. She also wanted full access to security briefings involving the glass hand or its surviving accounts. Agreed. The new boots were hers too, she added, but strictly as equipment and not as a romantic gesture. Equipment, Cal confirmed, perfectly grave. His wolf whispered, romantic equipment. I heard that. Cal coughed once. Tavia stepped closer and continued with the important rules. No carrying her without permission. Agreed. No calling the bond Destiny in public. Agreed. No letting his wolf comment on her breakfast unless invited. Cal hesitated. Tavia narrowed her eyes. I will try, he promised. She called that a weak answer, and Cal accepted the criticism because it was at least honest. That one worked on her. She hated that honesty had become one of his weapons. Tavia looked down at the table, at the dispatches, the files, the place where they had worked through a night that should have broken them and instead built something inconvenient. One more thing, she added. Name it? His voice had gone soft. The wolf was holding so still it felt like the whole room had inhaled. Tavia tapped the center of his chest with one finger, the same spot as the bar. Cale froze. The contact opened everything. His wolf did not shout this time. It whispered, there. Tavia looked up at the Alpha King who had carried her badly, apologized badly, learned quickly, saved her coffee, ruined stealth, respected a door, and let her walk through it. Sit down, mister, she ordered. Cale's eyes warmed. Cale asked whether that was an order, and Tavia called it security advice because he was too tall for this conversation. His wolf whispered, obey. Happily. Cale sat in the nearest leather chair. The Alpha King of the Iron Veil sat because a rogue fixer with a wrapped ankle and a crooked sense of mercy told him to. Tavia stood in front of him, suddenly less certain about her own hands than she had been about stealing from criminal vaults. Tavia warned him that she was not promising forever, and Cale did not ask her to. She also made it clear that she was not moving into his life like a rescued asset. He answered that she was not an asset at all, and the simple certainty of it settled something sharp in her chest. The quiet between them filled with fire crackle, distant ward hum, and the muffled life of the safe house waking around them. Tavia exhaled. I stopped wanting to leave sometime between the tripwire and the coffee rescue. Cale's expression changed. All the royal control cracked just enough for relief to come through. Not triumph, not possession. Relief so bright it made his wolf go wordless again. His hand lifted slowly. He stopped before touching her. He asked permission with only 2 soft words. Tavia should have teased him. She should have made a joke about forms, permits, or royal hand placement. Instead, she placed her hand in his. The bond warmed. Not a chain. Not a command. A line of heat and recognition, waiting for choice. Cale drew her closer with care that somehow felt stronger than force. His thumb brushed her knuckles. Through the contact, she felt his wolf curl around the edge of the bond, hopeful and ridiculous, and trying very hard not to shout mate directly into her face. Tavia smiled and gave the wolf permission to say the forbidden word once. Cale's brow lifted. Not Cale, she clarified with a glance. Him. The wolf's joy hit like sunlight through rain. Mate, he whispered, reverent now instead of frantic. Tavia's throat tightened. Tavia accepted it, but warned them both that smugness would send her out for breakfast. Cale's laugh was quiet and startled, as if she had pulled it from somewhere he forgot existed. He stood just enough to meet her halfway. I would like to kiss you, he murmured. Very formal. I am improving. Functional, she corrected. Barely? She leaned closer, increasingly. When he kissed her, it did not feel like being claimed. It felt like being met. The kiss was warm, careful, and quietly devastating. His hand stayed at her waist, steady but not trapping. Her fingers curled into the front of his shirt, right where she had poked him in a bar that smelled like lime, rain, and bad judgment. His wolf sighed into the bond with such theatrical happiness that Tavia broke the kiss laughing. Cale rested his forehead against hers. He ruined the moment. He created the moment. Unfortunately true. From the doorway, Elira cleared her throat. Tavia and Cale turned. The security captain looked at the bag on the table, the open door, the king's hand at Tavia's waist, and Tavia's finger still hooked in his shirt. Should I update the residence roster? Elira asked. Tavia stepped back, but not far. Add tactical advisor, temporary, probationary, with full boot privileges. Elira nodded once. Naturally. Cale's wolf whispered, home. This time, Tavia did not argue. 3 weeks later, Tavia's revised security protocol had made half the Iron Veil afraid of stamps, tea carts, and unlocked assumptions. That was progress. Kale sat through the first review with a ruler's solemn face while his wolf privately celebrated every diagram Tavia used to embarrass an expensive ward line. When one official defended the old protections, Tavia proved that a wrapped ankle, 2 stolen sandwiches, and 1 grudge could still breach the north wall in 4 minutes. The room tried not to laugh when Kale announced that the suspicious tea cart had been reassigned. Several failed. Danger did not vanish. Croy's network left behind debts, frightened witnesses, and men eager to rebuild old corruption under cleaner names. But comedy stayed evenly woven through the work. Kale kept inventing inspections that ended near Tavia's coffee. Tavia set harmless training traps in hallways. His wolf worried for 2 hours after she claimed one of her knives judged people. Through it all, the bond grew slowly, not as a trap or storm, but as something tended. Kale never marked her without asking, never used destiny as an argument, and never locked a door she had not chosen. Sometimes he failed at calm restraint. Sometimes Tavia called him your loomingness. Sometimes his wolf shouted suggestions so loudly that she had to leave a room before laughing ruined her reputation. The warmth stayed. One evening, after a long day of witness coordination and security reforms, Tavia returned to the library to find Kale repairing the crooked lamp. She stopped in the doorway. Tavia ordered him to stop at once. When Kale noted that the lamp had been crooked for 3 weeks, she informed him that it was historical now. It commemorated the first time she defeated him with furniture. His wolf whispered, "The lamp is sacred." Kale sighed and released the shade. Tavia crossed the room, set 2 coffees on the table, and leaned against the desk. Outside the windows, the city glowed under a thin silver rain. Somewhere below, the ward lines hummed with their revised timing. Somewhere in the kitchens, a cook was probably hiding cinnamon because Kale had asked one cautious question too many. He joined her at the desk. Kale updated her on the quieter victories. Counselor Naven had resigned under what Tavia called extended moral fatigue. Croy's remaining accounts were frozen. Hasker's sister had accepted a clerkship in the witness office, which Tavia described as good while looking down at her coffee. Kale's hand rested on the desk near hers. Not touching. Available. The wolf whispered, "Ask if she is happy." Kale did not. He had learned something better. He let the silence ask. Tavia looked around the library. There were files, firelight, the crooked lamp, the chair where the Alpha King had sat for her, and the door that still opened whenever she wanted. Home was not a cage. It was not a rescue. It was not silk sheets or royal walls or a title spoken by people who wanted to classify her. Home was a place where a woman could set traps and still be handed a key. A place where truth could be messy and still worth telling. A place where an Alpha King learned to ask, and a rogue fixer learned that staying did not have to mean surrender. Tavia slid her hand over his. Kale turned his palm up at once, folding his fingers through hers. His wolf whispered the word again, soft as firelight. Home. Tavia squeezed Kale's hand. "For the record," she warned, "if you ever carry me out of a bar again, I choose the posture." Kale's eyes warmed. "Noted. And you pay my tab first." "I thought I bought the bar." She stared at him. His wolf went very still. "You what?" Kale's face held perfect royal composure for exactly 2 seconds. Then the corner of his mouth betrayed him. Venick was motivated. Tavia closed her eyes. "You bought the bar I was banned from after one evening." "Technically, you are no longer banned." The wolf added, "We own the ban." Tavia laughed until she had to set her coffee down. Kale watched her, gold eyes bright and unguarded. Not the look of a king admiring a weapon. Not the look of a man guarding a possession. The look of someone who had found a door in a life built from walls. When she caught her breath, Tavia poked him once in the chest. "Sit down, mister." Kale obeyed. Of course he did. And this time, when his wolf whispered home, Tavia answered through the bond without fear. Yes, home. If this story grabbed your heart, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss our next story. We'll see you in the next one.